This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Finding workers could be a time-consuming chore. Individuals looking for employment sometimes went farm to farm inquiring about positions. Farmers would go to the villages to see if any men could be spared there. In the 19th century, with its lack of communications, missed connections had to be a frequent occurrence. In economic terms, both sides suffered high transaction costs because information costs were so high. One literally had to prowl the township area to see if labor were available. Curtis Downer recorded that Pa went over west this forenoon to look for a hired girl but didn't find any, while a carpenter recorded in his diary for 1856, Cyrus went to White Tablet to find work, got none. When the two sides did get together, a negotiation over the nature of the work, the duration of employment, and pay occurred. Because pay rates were so widely known, there probably was not that much leeway in the negotiations, but the interesting feature was the lack of coercion. It was indeed entirely a voluntary transaction in which either side could, and sometimes did, refuse. The entry in the diaries was phrased distinctly as a bargain arrived at by the two sides, not imposed by one on the other. One diary summarized a transaction in 1851 about work commencing, that we agreed $12 per month. Another in 1853 paid John Stapish June 11, 1854, $73.15 and settled with him and agreed to be even. In 1874, Curtis Downer included a line that his father hired David for $16 per month for 2 months, providing he can't find another man to work longer. At times, the agreement indicated part-time work. Denny works AM for us, PM for himself. Once the negotiation ended and work began, farmers kept track of the days worked, any expenses the hired person might ask of the farmer, boots, clothing, and the like, and especially of the days absent, sickness, rain, and other. There was some flexibility in the schedule, as time was taken out for hunting, fishing, and sometimes religious activities. This evening we all hands went over to Father Cook's to the singing school, but I never saw evidence of workers getting time off for political rallies. Most often, workers were docked for sick days. From the diary entries, it would seem that in the fields, barns, and gardens, the hired hands worked without direct supervision. They were either employed for specific tasks, which in the negotiation process must have been largely determined by whether the person had the needed skills, or they were general hires expected to know farm work. It is nonetheless clear from entries that hired people worked tasks while the farmer was away on some other part of the farm or traveling to the village for some local business. For kinfolk, one would expect a decent work effort from the hired hands so as to remain in familial good graces, but non-kin evidently had a good understanding of the effort required. One of the factors holding back an increasing work demand from the farmer was that he was in the field working himself and knew the limits of human endurance. The cost of supervision is a significant factor in 19th century agriculture, as it directly affected profits and productivity. It represents one of the great economic divides between slave labor and free labor.